If you don't mind, I will speak in Italian because I feel more comfortable and I think it's easier for me to talk and for you to understand. We have an excellent translation team, so they can do their work. Allora, io mi alzo perché così poi posso far vedere una breve presentazione. Buonasera a tutti. Innanzitutto vorrei ringraziare il Festival Internazionale del Giornalismo e la campagna di crowdfunding che ha reso possibile questo evento, perché credo che un evento del genere, con questo tipo di speaker, tutti insieme allo stesso tavolo, gratuito, sia un evento eccezionale nel mondo e quindi credo che vada riconosciuto, vada sottolineato e vada dato il giusto merito a chi ha reso possibile tutto questo, probabilmente molti di noi anche contribuendo alla campagna di crowdfunding. Io farò una brevissima presentazione e poi lasceremo la parola ai nostri speaker con i quali sarà possibile interloquire. Io farò la prima domanda, poi loro faranno il loro intervento e alla fine credo che sia meglio che alla fine di ciascun intervento, se qualcuno ha qualche domanda da fare, la faccia. Potete anche eventualmente usare Twitter, che cercherò di controllare, magari con l'hashtag AllDigital, e così vedremo di fare le domande in corso d'opera. Abbiamo un'ora e mezzo di tempo e quindi non perdiamone altro. Allora, faccio un piccolo disclaimer sportivo. Io sono tifoso della Juventus e sono anche molto preoccupato per la partita di questa sera con il Benfica, però ho una certa ammirazione per quest'uomo che, come immagino molti di voi sappiano, si chiama Rudy Garcia ed è l'allenatore della Roma Calcio. Che cosa c'entra Rudy Garcia con il giornalismo? Rudy Garcia l'anno scorso, dopo una storica rivincita della Roma contro la Lazio nel derby cittadino, ha pronunciato una frase che è rimasta famosa. Ha detto: abbiamo riportato la Chiesa al centro del villaggio. E io penso che questa metafora sia la metafora giusta per parlare del giornalismo oggi. Perché il giornalismo al quale eravamo abituati era più o meno questo: una Chiesa con tutti i suoi fedeli intorno che distribuiva il suo verbo in maniera monodirezionale ai suoi fedeli. Oggi più o meno la situazione rischia di essere questa: una Chiesa deserta e diroccata e i lettori da un'altra parte a fare altre cose in un altro villaggio. Lo scenario lo conosciamo bene. Può darsi che i giornali non siano morti, però sicuramente sono dei morti viventi tenuti in vita da un sistema industriale, un sistema di produzione che è ancora basato sulla stampa e sulla vendita di copie. Però è un modello che non regge, è una strada senza uscita e quindi quello che dobbiamo immaginare e di cui cercheremo di parlare oggi è un giornalismo senza giornali o comunque un giornalismo diverso rispetto a quello che abbiamo oggi. Il grande problema, la pietra filosofale che tutti cerchiamo, è però la sostenibilità economica. Nessuno ci ha ancora capito granché. Io per esempio ho preso qualche esempio dalla rete. Questo è un tweet di Martin Bellam, che tra l'altro è qui a Perugia. Insomma, immagino che tutti siate in grado di leggere. Questo è Brian Stelter, giornalista della CNN, ex New York Times. E questo è Clay Shirky, che non ha bisogno di presentazioni, che dice: la logica della nostra era è la fusione di bit e atomi, informazioni e oggetti, conoscere e avere, il tuo selfie e una caramella. E parla di questo sito qui, dove si può stampare una propria foto da Instagram sopra a una caramella, dimostrando che tra digitale e analogico, tra virtuale e reale, non c'è alcuna sostanziale differenza. Ho chiesto anche a qualcuno degli speaker di darmi una loro definizione di giornalismo digitale, un po' più seria. Questo è il tweet di Momi Peralta. Questo è quello di Steve Battery, del mio amico Steve. E qui ho voluto esserci anch'io per correttezza, ho provato a dare anch'io una mia definizione, che però ho cercato poi di diciamo, definire in maniera un po' più approfondita. Posto che notizie e redazioni si occupano di contenuti e di contesto, abbiamo la produzione e la cura, la ricerca e la raccolta di notizie esterna e quindi la necessità di verificare, da un lato la specializzazione, dall'altro l'aggregazione di contenuti anche dall'esterno, il lavoro di squadra e la distribuzione e infine un giornalismo che è guidato dai dati nel contenuto e guidato da un altro tipo di dati che sono gli analytics nella distribuzione e nel contesto. Sintetizzando, contenuto più contesto, professionisti più dilettanti, mainstream più social media, attraverso quelle che io ho definito piattaforme di condivisione, portano a fare giornalismo che è ben diverso dall'essere giornalisti, concetto che ormai è totalmente superato. Prima di passare la parola ai nostri ospiti, ho riassunto in un breve elenco puntato in onore di BuzzFeed i temi che potrebbero essere i temi conduttori di questa discussione e delle discussioni sul giornalismo. Molto velocemente. Pensare mobile. 1 miliardo di smartphone distribuiti nel mondo solo nel 2014. Non credo che ci sia bisogno di aggiungere altro. Quindi progetti, contenuti, profilazione, user experience mobile. Rendere le notizie fruibili come degli snack, atomizzarle e renderle utilizzabili in ogni momento e in ogni luogo senza che i nostri lettori abbiano bisogno di consumare ogni volta un pasto completo. Indossarle. Siamo nell'era dei wearable devices e quindi nell'era dei media umani, nei quali anche l'informazione è un'esperienza sensoriale. Contaminazione di linguaggi, imparare a programmare è ormai necessario per fare giornalismo. Sapere che i nostri sovrani sono il lettore e i dati, con la ormai famosa regola delle 5C, contesto, conversazione, cura, comunità, collaborazione, alla quale io ne ho aggiunta una, ed è la customizzazione dei contenuti sulle esigenze dell'utente. Di qui l'importanza dell'engagement, e qui ho rubato le parole al professor Jeff Jarvis, che dice che non bisogna pensare alla quantità, e qui c'è anche Tony Hale di Chartbeat che è stato protagonista di questa discussione, ma bisogna misurare l'impatto e parleremo di metriche in un panel domani con Tony Hale. L'importanza del dare qualità allo user generated content, l'esempio di questi giorni di Facebook che ha lanciato questo servizio che si chiama Newswire per fornire, per dare contenuti verificati e di qualità per un uso giornalistico. L'alternativa tra il mondo chiuso delle app e il mondo aperto del web, capire se è un'alternativa o se c'è una possibilità di convivenza, soprattutto per la fruizione mobile. Questo non ha bisogno di altre parole, perché il brand personale è il beat del momento, quindi che tu sia una persona, un gruppo di persone o una testata, siete tutti sullo stesso piano, tutti con le stesse possibilità. Si tratta di capire se questo porta a competizione o se forse si possa immaginare una collaborazione per il bene del lettore. E infine pensare in grande, dove per globale non si intende la dimensione ma l'obiettivo. L'open source dimostra che anche le nicchie possono essere globali. E non è un caso che abbia scelto New York Times come ultima immagine di questa breve presentazione, perché credo che se c'è una chiesa che è rimasta ben salda al centro del proprio villaggio, quella sia proprio il New York Times. Loro ce l'hanno fatta, se ce la farà il giornalismo è l'argomento di questa discussione con Steve Battry, Andy Carvin Momi Peralta e Luke Lewis. Grazie. Allora, Andy, grazie per essere qui. So che per te è un momento non facile e vorrei io partire proprio da questo per iniziare la nostra discussione. Ieri mattina tu hai avuto, immagino dalla rete dei tuoi contatti online, la notizia della morte accidentale di un giovane blogger egiziano, un tuo amico, e quando hai avuto questa notizia tu hai twittato il tuo dolore, il tuo lutto per questa notizia, però contemporaneamente tu hai dato ai tuoi follower una notizia giornalistica importante, tant'è vero che io l'ho saputo leggendo il tuo tweet. Allora tu in quel momento, pur non essendo nel ruolo di giornalista professionale, stavi facendo esattamente giornalismo. La mia domanda è questo il concetto di giornalismo di cui dobbiamo tenere conto oggi?
Thanks. Well, I think it's one of the concepts of journalism that we need to be taking seriously nowadays. It wasn't too long ago that if you saw a journalist, there was a good chance they didn't have much of a relationship with the public, unless maybe they had a talk radio program and they talked to people directly on the phone a lot. Generally, we would sit in our broadcast newsroom. We would sit behind our typewriters or whatever it was, and if you were lucky, you might be sent some messages in response to your story, and maybe they'd let you even see a couple letters to the editor. That world's gone now, and many journalists quite naturally have flocked to the Twitters and Facebooks, even the Reddits of the world, in order to expand their horizons and in many cases try to expand their influence. But just because they're on new platforms doesn't mean that they can engage in the same old behavior. For example, it still amazes me when I see reporters who haven't taken social media seriously, who suddenly get pulled into a big story where they realize that maybe the public can help them, and they simply go onto Twitter, announce who they are, and expect some sort of gracious response from the public offering everything they know. It just doesn't work that way. The greatest currency that exists on social media, I believe, is generosity. Generosity of knowledge, skills, information, and I would add to that empathy. And if you as a journalist aren't willing to become an authentic member of these communities, helping other people when they need help, sharing your feelings and thoughts when it's appropriate, then you shouldn't expect that community to respond to you when you need it. And so when I learned that my friend Bassem Sabri died, he died a day and a half ago, but I learned it yesterday morning, I didn't even think twice about the fact that I was going to go on Twitter and mourn his loss. And the funny thing is as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, I used to get criticism from other journalists for expressing grief over the death of friends and colleagues. They would say, this has no place online. You're not acting professionally. And I think the only response to that is you're not acting as a human anymore. If you're going to be a member of these communities and be taken seriously and to take as much from it as you possibly can professionally, you need to give back to it too, and that includes being brutally honest about the world going on around you. And so the fact that you learned about his death and that being news from me, to me, was secondary. Yeah. I would ultimately share the stories that The Guardian and others posted about him, but the most important thing I wanted to do at that moment was to reach out to my Twitter friends and my Facebook friends and grieve with them because we had all lost someone very close to us. And if there are still journalists out there who don't like that, they don't have to follow us and they don't have to be a part of this community. And we honestly don't care anymore.
Tu, tu ti definisci anche nella tua biografia su Twitter un giornalista occasionale e sicuramente però sei un profondo conoscitore dei social media, anche se appunto non ami essere definito un guru. Però io ho partecipato lo scorso autunno ad Atlanta a un incontro con te dove tu invece parlavi di un nuovo modo, di un nuovo ruolo dei giornalisti nei social media, un ruolo quasi in controtendenza, la necessità di rallentare il flusso come quasi obbligo morale nei confronti invece di qualcosa che forse sta andando troppo in là, troppo veloce e troppo avanti. Vuoi spiegarci questo concetto?
This may sound a bit of a paradox, and I've struggled with this over the last year and a half. I'm a very firm believer in the power of social media to inform journalism in real time. And I think there have been an incredible array of stories, news stories that have broken through the public or to the public through smart use of social media by news outlets as well as by members of the public sharing what they know. At the same time, I think the news media does an abysmal job at getting it right during a major breaking news story. In the US, the massive school shooting that happened in Newtown, Connecticut, at one point they thought that there were 2 shooters still out on the loose. At one point they named the wrong person. They named the brother of who turned out to be the shooter and plastered his Facebook page all over the internet and on broadcasts, even though this poor young man had nothing to do with it. During the Boston bombings a year ago last week, on the one hand, some news organizations reported that suspects had been arrested when that had not been true. One major tabloid in the US showed photos, quote unquote, of the bombers and they were the wrong people. And over at the community Reddit, they used racial profiling in combination with some other investigative tactics to point fingers at the wrong people, including a young man who had actually just committed suicide. And his poor family, rather than being able to grieve and find him, they were subjected to this, this reporting that he was a possible suspect. And so, on the one hand, social media affords us great opportunity, but we keep having these errors that take place through a combination of broadcasters continually trying to fill the airwaves and not allowing dead air and making mistakes and having those mistakes reflect through social media, creating a feedback loop. And sometimes it happens the other way as well. It starts on social and moves to broadcast and creates this vicious cycle of misinformation. And I think if we actually could figure out ways of using social media to slow down part of the reporting, the more likely it would be that we would make less mistakes. And so, for example, when Reddit made those terrible mistakes when trying to identify the bombers, there weren't many reporters watching what was going on in that Reddit feed. And even fewer of them even tried to join the conversation, even though it was clearly going in the wrong direction and could have used some professional guidance. At the same time, there have been situations where the broadcasters or the professional news networks have gotten it wrong and they're not paying attention to what's happening on social media. So I think we could all do a better job during breaking news to be open about what we know and what we don't know. Literally saying to the public, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, and this is what we're trying to figure out. And on top of that, having members of our newsrooms embedded within online communities where this discourse and the stories are taking place, so we can take all the professional skills that exist in the newsroom and all the incredible reportage taking place there with the collective knowledge and wisdom and real-time eyes of what's happening in social media and come to some kind of an accord where we can all be a little bit more humble about how we do our reporting and not pretend that we have the answers the moment after a story breaks, because rarely is the first draft of any news story correct. And unfortunately, this cycle between broadcast and social has just made that worse.
Ci sono domande per Andy? Se no le facciamo eventualmente alla fine. Thank you, Andy, for your answers. Mommy, you have a presentation? Momi Peralta è una collega argentina, lavora alla Nación e non si definisce nemmeno lei una giornalista, ma come vedremo lei con la sua squadra fa un grandissimo lavoro giornalistico e in particolare è un lavoro che è improntato sui dati. If you want to put your headphones, oh, you want, okay.
Hello. Well, I come with the experience of from South America, from Argentina. We are a newspaper here, La Nación, some of our figures. We are not very large. We are the second largest in Argentina. Sunday print circulation is 330,000 and 11 million unique visitors per month. And we started with the internet in 1995, and I think it's special, but it was like a bottom-up disruptive project. At that moment, nobody believed in us, and it started from like a sort of IT department, not also with 3 or 4 people, journalists from the newsroom that were reading these manuals about HTML, and so it was like a bottom-up project. Now, the same happened with another instances. So I took I'm inspired by the concept of open innovation because, and I want to match it with digital journalism and digital media because I think it's a big opportunity to have a new place in where we can meet with many other disciplines and especially technologies to use and to reuse and to share. So a couple of definitions is open innovation assumes that firms can and should use external ideas as well as internal, and it's innovating with partners by sharing risk and sharing reward. Partners may be your social media audience or, yes, and other partners. So here, just in the definitions, I applied this to digital journalism, and what we are doing, this is just a case. We are not, I don't think we are the best practice, but it's just to show you our example. The reduced cost of conducting research and development, of course, of building content, products, of interactive storytelling, and of course, of building your stories. The incorporation of customers early in the development process or in your investigative reporting by social engaging, crowdsourcing, or enriching content and beta testing investigative stories as well. Open to interact with the contributors. We have examples in which we are building these data sets and some contributors in the comments or in the articles of La Nación, they are telling us this company belongs to this group, from these people, look here, look there, and we are putting this as input and enriching our data sets. Synergism between internal and external innovation. and I put this as learn and reuse. For example, look at the night labs. Everywhere in the world can learn and can use and reuse these technologies. My Society, or all the funded news challenges, you can test this in beta for feedback and use these platforms for free. It's only you have to put the effort and the will to learn, and of course, self-learn. The potential for viral marketing, open collaboration, virals by itself. Everyone wants to share a project he feels part of. And so what are the facts? We are listening this a long time ago. Digital media and journalism must learn to do more with less. So less, maybe this, your cell phone, and more is your effort and the product. And the open knowledge world is already here. It's global and it's free. Are we going to lead or follow as media or as journalists? And also because innovation is motivation. Many disciplines, laboratories, industries are investing time and energy, and parentheses, some of them money, and they share their findings or prototypes, so you can be there. So we have little examples of efforts in La Nación, like first steps that anyone can do, because if we can do it, you can do it. But 3 years ago, we started with this campaign of Twitter, putting training and giving mobile phones and training lots of journalists, 180 journalists into Twitter. They didn't understand if this was like to play with, what is it, until the sources were in Twitter. So the sources, the politicians, the people from show business, everyone in Twitter, and other journalists as well after them. So then we did, well, you can have your branded channel of your editorial channel, and then they started to interact. So we think to interact, to cover real time, like he is the, I think he is the guru. But no, yeah, but everyone must follow him and share your work using social media. And it's very important, the fact that share your work, it's not like self-promotion. Yes, it is self-promotion, no, it's the ones that follow you want to see your article. It's that way that it works. It's your audience. So another thing that we did is like teamwork with others, and we learn a lot from the NGOs and from the more of the transparency NGOs. So we had this project to open the asset declarations of public servants, and they were 1,500 print copies. They give us like, okay, we give this to you. So we have to scan it to reduce sensitive information and to type everything. We use collaborative free tools, Google Spreadsheet, Trello, Document Cloud, and with a team and all these 30 volunteers from this NGO, we started typing. We designed a data model, and so this is before, this is after. Now we have this data set that is being used in Argentina for investigative reporting of the declarations of assets. 30,000 rows and 28 columns. And it was not only the entry thing, it was the checkathons that we did. We did like playing with these words, checkathons, check-in marathons, in presence and remote using collaborative digital tools. So you can see there people working. And then open. This is sharing the information. So this is very different mindset from the traditional business and traditional journalism model. Why are you putting such an effort and then open? Well, because then it comes back. It comes back in analysis, in participation of others, and now our information is going to be part of another larger project that is going to monitor transparency in the legislative power. And it's been developed in Chile by Ciudadano Inteligente. And we are going to take that and put it into our reporting also, to show this and put data closer to our citizens. Then we did this data fest, this to engage the knowledge community, because in Argentina we have no FOIA law, no open data. We have now 2 open data portals. One is better than the other, but at that time we didn't have, so we started doing the open data ourselves. We have to transform these PDFs, a lot of them, and open it. And so it was going to be valuable for many people. And this is what we call the knowledge community. So we opened and explained more than 30 data sets and made dataset cheat sheets to make them accessible and ready for analysis with data mining techniques or data visualization. We partner Universidad Austral, master's degree in data mining, and the communications faculty. So this is DataFest to open and mine public data. Then this is one of our journalists. He explaining the raw data sets. And in the first row there are journalists from our competitors. And he's explaining this data set, opening it, and then telling the data miners what to ask for this data set. So data miners, developers, and statisticians help solve these questions, adding value and crossing these data sets. And so, wow, in 2 days, we have like many new stories. This is how we share these, our data sets and link directly to the raw data. And these are our metadata or explanations. And the last one, the case I wanted to show you is the Senate expenses. Last year we won an award for this Data Journalism Award. There were 34,000 scanned image PDF, and we scanned it, we OCR with 3 different OCR engines to transform this data to a structured database. And we built this structured data set, published a lot of front page stories, and some of these stories are being investigated by justice. And it was okay, good. But the thing with the technology of OCRing scanned image PDF is that it was not perfect. We think there's a lot more to come and to extract, so we must dig more. So we inspired in another project like the MP's expenses of The Guardian or the Free the Files project from ProPublica. We asked ProPublica, can we use your platform? It's open source? Yes. Yes, we love it. You use our platform. So we had last year Night Mozilla Open News Fellow, Manuel Aristaran, and he's a developer. And now we have Gabriela Rodriguez. And so one started and the other ended this project. We did the copy of Free the Files, but in another language, that is Python. It was in another language. So and then we are going to open source this to ask people to help us to extract more data and more stories. And so also using Document Cloud, we are reusing these platforms and these ideas. This is the last one. Now, this is online now. This is Boss Data, our project. Here you see the original PDFs, and we put 6,000 PDFs, and in 3 weeks we have processed 4,000 by the users. The verification is a 3 validation method that if they put the 3 input the same, it's okay. So for this, to launch this, we called universities and NGOs to work. We are about 50 people in La Nación the first day, and we are going to do another day. And this is why we think we must learn also to engage for the long term. Giving and opening data in our country is very important to put data closer to the people. In these ways, we found a way to go. So, thank you.
Grazie Momi. Mi colpisce il vostro uso dei dati, nel senso che voi non vi limitate a raccoglierli, a presentarli, a spiegarli, anche a indagarli. Voi fate qualcosa di più, come hai spiegato. Voi li aprite questi dati e in questo vostro aprire i dati create un'interazione con i vostri lettori, un'interazione che crea valore e soprattutto fate un pubblico servizio, perché non essendoci il Freedom of Information Act in Argentina, probabilmente molti di questi dati sono anche dati che il governo non vorrebbe, o il governo o le istituzioni non vorrebbero che fossero aperti. È questo il concetto di pubblico servizio al quale il giornalismo deve tendere oggi? Un giornalismo che normalmente si è sempre limitato a raccontare i fatti, a metterci del proprio ma a raccontare i fatti. In questo caso voi addirittura fate un servizio che sarebbe forse compito delle istituzioni fare. È questo il pubblico servizio?
Well, yes. But we think that the same as this panel, the future, I mean, you have to make it every day, step by step. And if they don't open it, do it yourself and show the others that it can be done. And now we have even government coming to our data fest. It was like a surprise, as we are not considered like friends of government there in La Nación. We are considered independent media. But it was like, you know, it's a new place where we can meet and, well, share everything. And everyone, it's a win-win situation, so move fast.
Thank you. Steve. Allora, io ho conosciuto Steve l'anno scorso qui a Perugia, poi ci siamo tenuti in contatto e grazie a questo ho potuto nello scorso autunno andare negli Stati Uniti e visitare alcune realtà di Digital First Media nel Connecticut e poi il Thunderdome a New York, che era, bisogna dire, questa struttura, questo hub centrale attraverso il quale il gruppo Digital First Media distribuiva contenuti nazionali di alta qualità alla sua rete di giornali regionali e locali. Poiché era un modello che a noi interessava molto perché io lavoro ai quotidiani locali del gruppo Espresso, lavoro a Roma alla redazione centrale che fa esattamente questo tipo di lavoro per tutti i nostri quotidiani locali, quando sono tornato a Roma sono andato dai miei capi e ho detto ragazzi abbiamo trovato il modello vincente e quindi mettiamoci a lavorare per fare esattamente la stessa cosa. Poi poche settimane fa la notizia che il Thunderdome chiude. Cos'è successo, Steve? C'è stato qualcosa di sbagliato? Sì. E se c'è stato qualcosa di sbagliato, come lo si può correggere? Come si può fare che questo modello che io ho visto all'opera e mi sembrava eccezionale possa funzionare?
Can you? Okay, it is on. What Thunderdome is, and I would love to hear what Thunderdome is in Italian. I should take that phrase back to back to my colleagues from Thunderdome. What Thunderdome was and is, we're in the process of shutting it down, and I think through visits like yours and others who saw what we were doing, I think Thunderdome's gonna live on in other iterations throughout journalism. It was an attempt to figure out what are the things that we can do centrally and scale through a large network, whether it would be a company, as it was in our case, or collaborating among companies, which I think, which actually was part of the Thunderdome model too. We collaborated with ProPublica on some data projects, and I think if Thunderdome had been allowed to continue, that there would have been some collaboration beyond digital first media. But what happened was quite simply that the journalism experiment that Thunderdome was came up against the business realities that apparently, and we haven't announced this, the company hasn't announced this publicly, but Ken Doctor blogged, and Ken's a very knowledgeable blogger on the news business, and Ken reported / speculated that the hedge funds that own Digital First Media are in the process of selling the company, probably in pieces. And if you're going to sell the company, especially if you're going to sell it in pieces, then you don't need this future-facing expensive experiment. What you need is a more attractive bottom line and lower costs to sell to to potential buyers. And so, you know, I think it was an illustration of how hard it is to pursue this all-digital future that we're talking about here from a legacy media company. However innovative John Payton, our CEO, or Jim Brady, our editor-in-chief, or I, or any of our many colleagues try to be, we still were a newspaper company owned by a bunch of hedge funds because we were formed from two bankrupt newspaper companies that bought too much, you know, a decade ago when they thought the future looked brighter for newspapers than it turned out to be. And so I think the all-digital future is more likely to be created by digital startups like First Look Media that Andy is working with than by legacy media companies such as mine, just because the challenges are so great. I'm not going to say that there won't be any legacy media companies that will find their way to the all-digital future. You know, certainly the New York Times is doing some marvelous digital experimentation that that might help it find a prosperous digital future. You know, Jeff Bezos. It's interesting that Jeff Bezos and Pierre Omidyar took different paths in getting into the media business. Bezos, with basically the same amount of money. Bezos bought and probably well overpaid for the Washington Post to get that news team and brand that were already established, and see what he could find for the future, or what they could find for the future with his money. Whereas Omidyar decided that he would hire some people like Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi and Andy Carvin and Laura Poitras to build from the ground up, and without that legacy operation that is both expensive and distracting. You know, whatever digital magic journalists do, and my colleagues at Digital First Media have done some spectacular digital journalism, but every night the press has to start on time. and that does get in the way of the digital things that we're trying to experiment with and explore.
Tu hai anticipato una domanda che io avrei fatto poi più tardi a Andy su, ovviamente, First Look Media, sul quale abbiamo tutti molta curiosità. Però chiedo a te, Steve, dobbiamo immaginarci più il giornalismo delle stars o il giornalismo degli staff?
Excellent question, and I think you need both. I think a good journalism operation needs some people who are both good at and willing to do the simple watchdog journalism of covering the local city council meetings and more important than the meetings, the things that aren't happening at the meetings. And that's probably not going to be your star, but stars are stars mostly because they're really good, and we need people doing really good journalism. And so I think, and most of your stars come from the staff. That you get somebody, and using the example of covering the city government, you get somebody who you know, you thought you assigned to cover boring meetings of local government, and you know, she digs into you know, corruption in spending by the city council, and suddenly you've got a star, and you put her on something bigger than the city government. But maybe in your community, city government should be the star. So I think it's got to be both. The nitty-gritty news of the community is important to the community, even when it's boring to journalists. but a lot of our great journalism has its roots in journalists who are willing to wade through the potentially boring stuff and find the really exciting stuff.
Thank you. Luke, you have a presentation?
Yeah. Can we get it set up?
Luke Lewis è il responsabile per la Gran Bretagna di BuzzFeed, un sito che immagino voi conosciate piuttosto bene. If you want to put your headphones, I have a question for you.
Do you know which bit to play? How did you spell yours?
What?
How did you press play on yours?
PowerPoint?
This is it, but where have you clicked? Oh, it's a PDF. Excuse me, sorry. Oh,
Okay.
that's not mine.
Presentazione.
That's not mine.
That's mine.
Oh.
Play it again.
I sent two, the PDF and PowerPoint. Brutal, but it was a PowerPoint, not a PDF. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great, sorry about that.
Ok, Luke.
Technology.
Quando si parla del giornalismo alla BuzzFeed, di solito chi lavora nei media tradizionali pensa a un bad journalism, a un cattivo giornalismo. Però ci sono due fatti da tenere presente: che il modello funziona, i risultati ci sono, e che, se non sbaglio, voi avete di recente assunto un vincitore di premio Pulitzer per fare del giornalismo investigativo. Quindi le cose stanno cambiando.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to know. In different countries, BuzzFeed is kind of more famous than others. So I think if you have a kind of a vague knowledge of BuzzFeed, you probably think of it in terms of our entertainment coverage. So you think we're the home of lists and quizzes. We definitely are. We love lists and quizzes. We're obsessed with them. But we actually call ourselves a social news and entertainment company. And so the news part of it, you might not be quite as familiar with. And so if you have been paying a bit more attention to BuzzFeed, you'll know that we have been investing very heavily in original reporting. So yeah, the guy you mentioned is actually part of our investigations unit, which is head up by a guy called Mark Schoofs. And foreign reporting is a big focus for us this year. So I'll talk a bit more about that. But for anyone who's not really familiar with BuzzFeed at all, I'll just give you a very quick introduction. So BuzzFeed, based in New York, but growing internationally. And what is distinctive about BuzzFeed, most publishers still, the majority of their traffic comes from Google. What's different about BuzzFeed is the vast majority of our audience comes from social media, particular Facebook. This is a journalism conference, so I have to show you at least one boring graph, and here's mine, just to show you that BuzzFeed gets more traffic from Facebook than any other publisher in the world, by quite some distance. But I thought it might be interesting just to show you how our content management system works, because it's quite key to the kind of journalism we do. So this is just an example. When you sign into BuzzFeed and you write an article, on the right-hand side, it shows you what your article is going to look like on a smartphone. And you can actually, before you publish, you can text the draft version of your article to your phone to make sure it looks great on your particular device. I think that is absolutely key to what we're trying to do. So all the growth we've had over the past year or two has been because of this explosion in growth of smartphone use. And any success we've had as a company really is down to the fact that we make news that is optimized for mobile and for social. It's really, really key. And our writers are kind of schooled in thinking, how is this article going to work on a smartphone? It's really, really important. Well, this is also from our content management system. And just to show you how it works, right, this little thing with the plus, we call it an omnibox. And you start every article by selecting one little element. So it could be a bit of text, could be a picture, could be a tweet, could be an Instagram. And so it's actually modular. So you build it up segment by segment. And that system was actually designed in an earlier era of BuzzFeed to facilitate the sort of easy creation of fun lists, which is what BuzzFeed is most famous for. But it turns out that's actually a very good structure as well for breaking news. It makes it very fast and makes it quite sort of drag and drop. So if there's a breaking news story, instead of doing what a lot of traditional journalists do, which is do a kind of a rewrite of something that maybe is on another site or maybe is on the wires, you really can kind of drag and drop. So you get a tweet from here. If another site is telling the story very well, just link to them. And we found it's actually an excellent way of covering breaking news. So because you have this kind of modular list element to the way our content management system is built, you often you create articles like this. This is an example of how we covered protests in Venezuela. So it's in a list format, has a number in the title, it scrolls down, we don't do multi-page galleries, and the images really fill the screen. So this is very important to how we create articles at BuzzFeed. We really make sure the images have the maximum impact. But the key thing is, you then go beyond that, right? So I think this kind of journalism is really, really valuable because it has impact and it is visual. And as you can see here, this was very widely shared. The 5.4, that is our sort of internal metric where we measure virality. So it means that 5.4 more times traffic, more people came to that article via social sharing than from the homepage. But not every news story can be super viral, and we don't measure everything that way. So the really important thing is to then go beyond that and do the deeper dive. So the reason this kind of high-impact visual journalism is important because it brings people to that subject who might not otherwise have been interested. So it's really, really key. But beyond that, also, the other thing that this kind of modular list style is very, very good for is explainers. Right? So this is one we did in the UK that was very, very popular, as widely shared as any of the more fun, light-hearted stuff we've done. And it was a list that showed you exactly how house prices had gone insane in the UK. It was very, very popular. And the reason I bring that up is because explainers are huge at the moment. It's like the hot thing in journalism. So you've got the 538, you've got Vox, you've got The Upshot by New York Times, and they're all trying to do this explanatory journalism, which is very important. We're going to keep doing it, but there is a limit to that. Because the thing about explainers, they often tell you stuff that you kind of already know. And what we think is really, really key is investing in original reporting. So it's not enough to just do explainers. So just give you a few recent examples. This is our Nairobi correspondent, Gina Moore, and she's been covering this story of crackdown in Kenya against Somalis, which is a story that very few other sites have been covering. She's covered that really in a lot of depth. This is our guy in Syria, Mike Giglio, and he did this incredible report of a phone conversation between two Syrian rebels. Really, really powerful reporting. We've also got someone in Egypt. This is Shira Frankel, and this was a big scoop. She actually spoke to the Tamarod in Egypt, and she wrote this story that they'd been taking direction from the army. So that's just to give you an example of the kind of in-depth, deeply reported stuff we're doing. And the thing is, we don't want to stop doing the lists and the quizzes, right? As I said, we are obsessed with them. So it's a question of doing both. And I think a lot of other news organizations, they think it's weird to have the combination of serious and silly. But to me, every news organization has always done that. If you pick up a broadsheet newspaper on a Sunday, it's got foreign reporting in the front, it's also got cartoons, it's got a crossword, it's got sport. So to me, the combination of serious and silly is absolutely nothing new to that.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's something that as Luke was starting to talk and we were talking about the BuzzFeed reputation for the listicles and the fun stuff and the entertainment and everything, I was thinking every newspaper editor who ever looked down his nose at BuzzFeed and said listicles with a sneer in his or her voice will get more calls if they don't publish the horoscope in the morning paper or if they cancel a comic strip than they'll get over their toughest piece of investigative reporting. So, you know, the legacy media has always been in the entertainment business as well as the news business, and to expect a major digital news organization like BuzzFeed not to mix the two would be insane.
Thank you. Luke, one other question. Voi siete famosi per la vostra capacità di condivisione dei contenuti, di engagement sui vostri contenuti. C'è un segreto, c'è un lavoro sui dati, è il modo in cui li presentate o è una formula magica?
Yeah, data is incredibly important to us, and one thing that's distinctive to BuzzFeed is every writer has access to their sort of viral dashboard. So you've written something, and you can immediately see how many views it's had and where that traffic has come from. I think the thing about that is it's really, really valuable to give journalists access to like top quality data, but as long as they're not a slave to it, you know, I think it should inform your decisions, but not completely dictate them. The reason I think it's valuable for journalists to care a lot about how their posts perform is that it kind of erodes a little bit the dictatorship of the editor. So I think legacy media, the approach is that the editor, he says what goes. And the stories that make it into the paper, often it's just because he wants them to. In fact, I spoke to a journalist from the Daily Mail, and I said, how do you measure the success of what you've done? And he said, well, there's only one way. It's whether or not the editor likes it. I think that's kind of an unhealthy way of doing journalism, really. So yeah, I think data is important, but you should use it, but not be a slave to it.
Okay, thank you, Luke. A last question to Andy, then we can open to the Q&A to the audience. Il tema lo ha introdotto prima Steve nella sua presentazione. First Look Media. Siamo tutti curiosi di vedere che cos'è, che cosa sarà, perché finora se ne è parlato molto, si è fatto molto buzz su First Look Media, si è visto ancora abbastanza poco. Puoi dirci qualcosa di più?
Well, the reason why you're seeing very little so far is because we want to take our time and get this right. We have the luxury of time and funding from Piero Midiar, and we felt it was important to give Glenn Greenwald and his team a space to continue publishing about the Snowden story as soon as possible. And so, I mean, literally, we whipped up a WordPress instance and gave him space, and he's been publishing there. But the rest of us are mainly sitting back and thinking very long and hard about what kind of digital journalism do we want to be doing in, I don't know, 2017, 2018? How are platforms going to change between now and then? How will the use of mobile and social media evolve? What role will news organizations play in terms of covering social justice And frankly, what economic models for journalism will be thoroughly dead by that point. And so, while on the one hand, we wanted to make sure that Glenn and his team could continue the story that they've been doing so well for the last year, we're really trying to take advantage of this moment. And it feels weird because, you know, you've got a bunch of journalists all brought together now, and more coming on board, almost none of us producing content on a daily basis yet. But instead, we actually get to sit down and think. You know, we're actually getting to sit down, you know, get together for a few days and brainstorm and let that germinate for a while and do it again and have this iterative process. And so, you know, ultimately, there are certain factors that were articulated from the beginning that will still be at play when we start publishing more. So, for example, we want to do aggressively independent journalism with strong perspectives. We want to have a structure in place where our reporters are given the opportunity to flourish and not feel not only bogged down by editors, but bogged down by technology or legal barriers. And so, for example, one of the first people we hired at the executive level was an attorney, a general counsel for media. And so, in that sense, as we built out our infrastructure, we want our reporters to be able to take risks and know that if any government or other entity goes after them, we are going to have their backs. And so whether it comes to creating a strong legal backing, a strong technological platform backing, and a broader editorial vision about what we want to create, there's no deadline out there saying we need to get this done by June 1st. Or let alone January 1st of next year. And so, so Glenn came out with his side because, I mean, it was a high-profile topic that needed to continue coverage. But we're deliberately taking our time for much of the rest of it so we can make sure we get it right. Having said that, the next thing we are rolling out is going to be a site led by Matt Taibbi, formerly of Rolling Stone, which is going to focus primarily on corporate and political corruption. And that'll be out probably later this summer, early this fall. But irrespective of that and Glenn Greenwald's site, we're purposely taking it slow so we can think this out as best we can and make the right investments.
So the lesson from Digital First Media and First Look Media is that the most important value in business for journalism is having time.
Yeah.
Grazie, thank you all, grazie per le vostre risposte e abbiamo esattamente 20 minuti abbondanti per le domande del pubblico e ai nostri speaker, i nostri interlocutori sono a disposizione. Non so come funziona con i microfoni. Ah, ecco.
Hello. Great. Hi, I'm Tony Hale from Chartbeat. Before my question, I just want to say Thunderdome for me was an absolutely fantastic thing, and it is a crime that it's over. The hedge fund guys are depressingly obvious in their behavior, but worrying in their lack of vision. Beyond that, I'm going to avoid...
Thank you.
It's true. I'm going to avoid any normal questions about data, because I think Luke got it pretty spot on, in my opinion. Instead, I've been struck, as I kind of wander around a journalism festival, there are people wearing press passes. That to me is kind of funny. But it makes me think about the one of the themes that I've been hearing from a lot of you, which is this kind of blurring of the lines between journalism and people of the crowd and so forth. And my question to you guys is, how well do you think news organizations have adapted to this in terms of kind of verification, in terms of accreditation, in terms of all the ways in which their lives change as a result of these kind of blurring of the lines? Are we making any progress whatsoever, or are we there, or are we screwed?
Who does want to answer?
You know, I think we've made a lot of progress in the last few years, but clearly there's still more to be done. You know, companies as traditional as the Associated Press have figured out really smart ways of doing verification of content that they receive from all over the world. There are relatively new businesses such as Storyful. I mean, it's not new anymore. They've been around for a couple years now, but you know, they've been doing a tremendous job marketing their services and to help authenticate user-generated content from all over the place. At NPR, the way we did it most of the time is I had a large number of people following me on Twitter, and we would basically give them research assignments. And so we would ask, how many of you speak the Libyan dialect of Arabic? And people on Twitter would raise their hands. Okay, how many of you are plane spotters and were willing to spend some time looking up the tail numbers that Muammar Gaddafi uses when he flies out of the country? And a few other people raised their hands. We put them to work. And so so there are definitely different models and ways of doing this. And I think it's only going to get better as more companies and news organizations develop tools that allow you to analyze some of the data that's coming in. But at the same time, you're also getting into somewhat murky territory because, it's right now, it's not that difficult to, for example, take a look at a particular activist on Twitter and collect data from Twitter to see all the people they're following and all the people those are following and create a social network map of the activists connected together so you can find better sources. The ironic thing is when you do that, it's great for reporting and it's exactly what the dictators are doing on the other end. And it's exactly what the NSA is doing too. And so the smarter we get with social media and the more sophisticated we get at mining the metadata to help verify things, it's going to raise some of these ethical issues as well. And I wish I had an answer, and I don't yet. And I think we're going to trudge our way through it just as much as we have with everything else so far.
I'll add a brief plug for the verification handbook that the European Journalism Center developed, of which I wrote a chapter, and about which we're going to be having a panel discussion at 6:30. And I think one of the things that I liked the best about the verification handbook was that it didn't just deal with journalism. It's geared for activists and crisis responders and so on, who are also both acquiring and spreading information during these situations. It's recognizing that journalists aren't the only source of information in crisis situations. So if you haven't downloaded the verification handbook, or if it's not out in your language yet, I know it's being done in multiple languages, so watch for that if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah, this is just such a huge issue in journalism at the moment. I think journalists with social media verification skills are going to be increasingly in demand. It becomes more and more relevant, especially because we're in this world now where every news publisher, on the one hand, they've got the hard news, but then they've also, pretty much everyone is competing with each other to have like a viral hit. And viral news is a kind of news that tugs at the heartstrings, makes you feel good about the world, has a sort of a warm, fuzzy feeling to it. And everyone is trying to do those. And it's amazing how often those stories go all around the world, and then you find out they're a hoax, So it's really incredibly valuable to be skeptical about those, alert to hoaxes. And this has actually given rise to a whole new genre of news article now, which is the viral debunk, which we do a lot of.
Mario? Okay, lì, poi...
I have a question for the UK editor of BuzzFeed. How do you manage the native advertising projects for your advertisers? I mean, are journalists doing them? How do you manage also the comments that possibly the users spend on your social profiles? Thanks.
Yeah, it's a bit of a misconception about BuzzFeed. I think people think that there is a sort of a blurred line between editorial and commercial. I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. So we don't run display advertising. The only advertising product on BuzzFeed is a sponsored post. So it kind of has the same structure as an editorial article, it's often in a numbered list. But it's very clear that it's sponsored. It says at the very top. And on the homepage, there's a different colored background. It's a bit like a sponsored search result on Google. It's a different color. It's very clear that it's sponsored. And and so those are produced by a completely different team of people. We have quite an old-fashioned sort of church and state divide between editorial and commercial. But editorial people are not really encouraged to have much to do with people who work on the advertising side. So yeah, there are a team of creatives, and their job is to write those sponsored posts, and they are different people from the editorial staff.
Are you managing the comments by users, or are the advertisers doing this?
You know what? That is a good question. I don't think you can actually comment on a sponsored post. I'm not an expert in the commercial side of BuzzFeed, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Io vorrei solo dire due cose. Una la volevo dire prima e adesso un'altra aggiungo una cosa dopo aver sentito l'amico di Chartbeat. L'unica cosa che volevo dire, ancora la domanda di Andrea a Luke Lewis a proposito, sembra come che ci sia ancora la necessità di dover garantire un valore giornalistico a imprese come BuzzFeed. Ecco, forse basta dire che se BuzzFeed, come da ieri è oggetto di una parodia da The Onion, credo che abbia guadagnato oggettivamente le sue stellette di media mainstream. E mi sembra che sia un criterio piuttosto oggettivo. L'altra cosa, a proposito della domanda, è interessante la notazione del nostro amico a proposito di queste cose che portiamo appresso e che lui ha giustamente definito a proposito dei press passes come dei pass per la stampa o viceversa per altri, ed è una interessante contraddizione per il semplice fatto che questo evento, da quando è nato nel 2007, non ha bisogno di alcun pass. Chiunque, come abbiamo visto stamattina e ieri con personaggi anche molto coloriti, può entrare qua e dire la sua o partecipare. Quindi in realtà questi non sono pass, perché tutti possono passare. No? Allora, che cosa sono questi? Possiamo discuterne. Evidentemente viviamo in un mondo ibrido, ancora, in un mondo culturalmente ibrido, dove dei segnali di comunicazione che vengono da mondi precedenti ancora sono sentiti necessari, o forse sono necessari, non lo sappiamo, ma dobbiamo imparare a vivere in un mondo che è ancora ibrido.
Sul mondo ibrido, Steve?
Well, I got a press pass when I was in a senior in high school, and my first sports writing job, we'll just say more than 40 years ago. And I never needed it to get into a game or anything. And so even in the legacy media, press pass, you know, unless you're really like at a crime scene or a political convention or something where it gets you special access. I've very seldom used one. You know, you go where the people go, and you find the stories. So you know, I think it's always been you know, unless the Secret Service or, you know, protecting a politician or something, and it gets you special access. My stories are where the people are usually.
Roberto Bernabò del Tirreno. Volevo fare una domanda a Steve. Lo scorso anno appunto con Andrea abbiamo visitato i giornali del gruppo tuo giù nel Connecticut. Volevo chiederti questo, fare una domanda che è un po' vecchia da direttore di un giornale che si sta avventurando su questa strada, cioè ho visto l'esperienza giù di Digital First di questi quotidiani. Anch'io sto cercando di fare un bilancio della mia di esperienza. Quello che vorrei chiederti è, a distanza di tempo, la produzione di contenuti digital first che poi hanno un packaging successivo per la carta, fatto da una struttura, come dire, differente da quella dei cronisti che producono le notizie. Ecco, questa sovrapposizione di contenuti ha avuto, secondo te, un effetto di incremento nel calo delle diffusioni oppure no? E la seconda cosa è questo modello appunto dell'unbolt delle vostre redazioni. Questo sta andando avanti al di là della questione del Thunderdome. E quali sono state le difficoltà principali di far, appunto, di spezzare le logiche delle redazioni che hai trovato nel tuo viaggio in tutti i giornali del gruppo? Grazie.
Well, thank you for that question. And the process that you were referring to earlier this year, we announced a project called Project Unbolt, which grew from a phrase that our CEO John Payton used in describing our newsrooms. For all the digital work that we've done, and our newsrooms have made fabulous progress in using data and using social media and live reporting and video and so on. He said we were still essentially print newsrooms with digital operations bolted on. And as somebody who had visited all of our newsrooms that publish daily newspapers, as well as some that publish weeklies, I knew immediately when he said it that it was true, in varying degrees in each newsroom. But that, as I said before, the press has to start on time, whatever we're doing digitally. And so I proposed a project that the CEO approved, and that, by the way, is still continuing even with the shutdown of Thunderdome, and even though I will be moving on because I was part of Thunderdome. Speaking of which, if anybody needs some high-priced but very experienced digital help, let me know. But the project continues because we know that whoever buys the company, whatever the future of the company is, if it stays together, if it breaks up into small parts, the future is going to be increasingly digital, and somebody who publishes newspapers needs to figure out how do we shift to being focused on creating digital content with an operation perhaps bolted onto that digital newsroom that harvests some of that content for a print publication. And your question about has our digital focus hurt our print circulation? Are we selling fewer print copies? That's difficult to say because our circulation was in a decline before we started the digital first approach. In fact, the peak of print circulation in the United States, and I'm operating from memory here so I could be a little off, was sometime in the mid-1980s or maybe early 1990s, before the web was even an issue. So that our circulation has been in a decline. Our print revenue has been in a free fall before digital first media even existed. Digital first media took over 2 bankrupt newspaper companies that went into bankruptcy because of this this dual free fall of print circulation and print advertising. And so that if our digital focus has caused that to accelerate, there's probably some harm in that, but the fact of the matter is our future is only going to be secure if we can figure out how to capture the digital audience and how to do business with our communities and helping them reach the digital audience. And I think our newsrooms in Connecticut, which you visited and which are doing an excellent job, perhaps the best in our company, or certainly among the best in our company, at rethinking how we work for the digital age. I think we're going to have our best shot if we do that. It may be too late for legacy media that have suffered as much damage as we have to do that, but that's the point of Project Unbolt. Thunderdome was an attempt to help that, but kind of they were related, but they were also separate projects. So Project Unbolt will continue, and the company, after I and my Thunderdome colleagues have departed, the company will continue trying to figure out what that digital future for a legacy newsroom is.
Thank you. Raffaella?
Yes. Okay. No, I'm going to speak in Italian, sorry. Vorrei tornare sulla questione del tempo che citava, del lusso di avere tempo che citava Andy prima, perché anche dalla parte degli utenti il tempo è un lusso, ed è un po' il lusso, il bene di lusso su cui facciamo competizione tutti noi che ci affacciamo al business dei media digitali. Cioè stiamo tutti in competizione per accaparrarci un po' del poco tempo di quelli che cliccano e possono cliccare da un sito all'altro con grande velocità. Allora, qual è il segreto per far sì che le persone restino sui nostri siti il più tempo possibile? È vero, come ci ha detto anche Sharbit recentemente, che la mania del click non è più una metrica utile per capire se stiamo andando nella giusta direzione, che dobbiamo adesso valorizzare il modo in cui offriamo i contenuti. E a questo proposito magari mi piacerebbe un commento sul perché i nuovi business digitali a cui stiamo assistendo si stanno un po' tutti concentrando su una nuova qualità di contenuto, sul giornalismo di spiegazione, l'explanatory journalism.
Andy?
Well, you know, it's funny that so many news organizations are still hung up about how they're keeping people on their site, because that's the way they're used to mentioning things. Whereas it's one of the things I think BuzzFeed has done so brilliantly is that they know if they create good content that people are going to want to talk about, and it's easy to share, it's going to take on a life of its own. And I mean, I rarely get up in the morning and go through a short list of websites anymore like I used to. You know, instead I tend to go to Facebook and Twitter to see what my friends are already talking about. And I follow those links. Almost inevitably, those links will bring me to the New York Times for a little bit, to BuzzFeed for a little bit, NPR for a little bit, but I'm not necessarily directing my attention at those sites. But if we also do our jobs well and make it easy for people to navigate our sites and personalize them to a certain extent, then it does increase the possibilities of people staying longer. But you know, we just need to accept the fact that all of this has been disaggregated, and that's why I think there are you know, there are tools out there like Circa and Flipboard and others that are really trying to tap into the notion of atomizing content so people get the gist of things that interest them and expose them to things they may not know about, but do it in a way that the user can pick and choose where they go next. And in some cases, personalize that experience based on what your friends and family are already sharing online. And so, not that they've necessarily found the holy grail in terms of how to make money online, but I definitely think we've reached this point where assuming our users are just going to come to our site out of habit and stay there for a long time, you know, the number of sites that can do that are going to be shrinking mainly to trade sites, ones that are specific to things like business, and frankly to sites like BuzzFeed, because they know how to keep our attention.
Luke, a quick reply.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is quality. That's how you keep people sticking around. But if you asked that question 2 or 3 years ago, someone probably would have said the way to keep users sticking around is kind of by tricking them. They wouldn't have said it, they wouldn't have used those words. But basically, the way we used to keep people on websites was by forcing them to click through like massive galleries. Some publishers still do that, but it's an awful user experience. But it's a great time at the moment because people seem to have figured out that like the way digital journalism is about quality. That's how you're going to keep people coming back. But I think that the other point is it used to be publishers would obsess over their homepage, and so they had this old-fashioned idea that users came to the homepage in the morning. It's like, we can push them there, put that in the splash, and that's how you would kind of engage people and keep them coming back. And now I think that it's a fantasy. You know, people aren't going to come via your homepage. They're going to discover one article via social media, probably. So you want to really focus on optimizing that article page, not your homepage. Forget about the homepage. It doesn't really matter. And in particular, once they've read the article on a smartphone, what other articles can you then bounce them to? So it's really gratifying when people talk about the BuzzFeed vortex. I think that's really cool when they say that, because what they mean is that they've come into one article and then suddenly 2 hours have gone. Because they've been recommended, they've spotted loads of other articles that they just have to read.
Ecco, l'ultima domanda era sul tempo. Momi?
Yes, we focus in very aggressive distribution in social media, and then capturing the trends and trying to put all the stuff we can in good storytelling to those main stories. And we look at the time on site that these are making the difference there. And also we care about the search engine optimization things. And we struggle a little with the journalists because we have to negotiate something, keywords or titles. But this has been a little success for us. So that's.
Ecco, l'ultima domanda era sul tempo. Il nostro tempo è finito. A proposito di questo argomento, però, domani c'è un panel interessante con Tony Hale, Pierluca Santoro, Stephen Conrad su proprio le metriche e le page views. Grazie a tutti per l'attenzione e buona serata.
Okay. The names of your projects are so cool. Thunderdome, Project Unbolt. I think Americans are very good at naming things. BuzzFeed's a good name, yeah.
I don't know, I need to ask. What's Thunderdome in Italian? I need to take that back to me.
The translation in Italian, Thunderdome, Casa del Tuono.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. From the British Times or the New York Times? New York Times. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, but you could have been a US correspondent for the Times.
No, there is only one Times.
Right, yeah.
But
It's always
we'll see
confusing. Right, yeah. Hi there, I'll just come down.
Hi. We might have one other person ahead of me. There may be one other person ahead of me. I need to see if she comes. I already promised her, but wait a few minutes ago.
L'essere giornalisti, concetto che ormai è totalmente superato. Prima di passare la parola ai nostri ospiti, ho riassunto in un breve elenco puntato in onore di BuzzFeed i temi che potrebbero essere i temi conduttori di questa discussione e delle discussioni sul giornalismo. Molto velocemente. Pensare mobile, 1 miliardo di smartphone distribuiti nel mondo solo nel 2014. Non credo che ci sia bisogno di aggiungere altro. Quindi progetti, contenuti, profilazione, user experience mobile. Rendere le notizie fruibili come degli snack, atomizzarle e renderle utilizzabili in ogni momento e in ogni luogo senza che i nostri lettori abbiano bisogno di consumare ogni volta un pasto completo. Indossarle. Siamo nell'era dei wearable devices e quindi nell'era dei media umani, nei quali anche l'informazione è un'esperienza sensoriale. Contaminazione di linguaggi, imparare a programmare è ormai necessario per fare giornalismo. Sapere che i nostri sovrani sono il lettore e i dati, con la ormai famosa regola delle 5C, contesto, conversazione, cura, comunità, collaborazione, alla quale io ne ho aggiunta una, ed è la customizzazione dei contenuti sulle esigenze dell'utente. Di qui l'importanza dell'engagement, e qui ho rubato le parole al professor Jeff Jarvis, che dice che non bisogna pensare alla quantità. Qui c'è anche Tony Hale di Chartbeat che è stato protagonista di questa discussione, ma bisogna misurare l'impatto e parleremo di metriche in un panel domani con Tony Hale. L'importanza del dare qualità allo user generated content e dell'allenatore della Roma Calcio. Che cosa c'entra Rudy Garcia con il giornalismo? Rudy Garcia l'anno scorso, dopo una storica rivincita della Roma contro la Lazio nel derby cittadino, ha pronunciato una frase che è rimasta famosa. Ha detto: abbiamo riportato la Chiesa al centro del villaggio. E io penso che questa metafora sia la metafora giusta per parlare del giornalismo oggi. Perché il giornalismo al quale eravamo abituati era più o meno questo: una Chiesa con tutti i suoi fedeli intorno che distribuiva il suo verbo in maniera monodirezionale ai suoi fedeli. Oggi più o meno la situazione rischia di essere questa: una Chiesa deserta e diroccata e i lettori da un'altra parte a fare altre cose in un altro villaggio. Lo scenario lo conosciamo bene. Può darsi che i giornali non siano morti, però sicuramente sono dei morti viventi tenuti in vita da un sistema industriale, un sistema di produzione che è ancora basato sulla stampa e sulla vendita di copie. Però è un modello che non regge, è una strada senza uscita e quindi quello che dobbiamo immaginare e di cui cercheremo di parlare oggi è un giornalismo senza giornali, o comunque un giornalismo diverso rispetto a quello che abbiamo oggi. Il grande problema, la pietra filosofale che tutti cerchiamo, è però la sostenibilità economica. Nessuno ci ha ancora capito granché. Io per esempio ho preso qualche esempio dalla rete. Questo è un tweet di Martin Bellam, che tra l'altro è qui a Perugia. Insomma, immagino che tutti siate in grado di leggere. Questo è Brian Stelter, giornalista della CNN, ex New York Times. E questo è Clay Shirky, che non ha bisogno di presentazioni, che dice: la logica della nostra... L'esempio di questi giorni di Facebook, che ha lanciato questo servizio che si chiama Newswire, per fornire, per dare contenuti verificati e di qualità per un uso giornalistico. L'alternativa tra il mondo chiuso delle app e il mondo aperto del web, capire se è un'alternativa o se c'è una possibilità di convivenza, soprattutto per la fruizione mobile. Questo non ha bisogno di altre parole, perché il brand personale è il beat del momento, quindi che tu sia una persona, un gruppo di persone o una testata, siete tutti sullo stesso piano, tutti con le stesse possibilità. Si tratta di capire se questo porta a competizione o se forse si possa immaginare una collaborazione per il bene del lettore. E infine pensare in grande, dove per globale non si intende la dimensione ma l'obiettivo. L'open source dimostra che anche le nicchie possono essere globali. E non è un caso che abbia scelto New York Times come ultima immagine di questa breve presentazione, perché credo che se c'è una chiesa che è rimasta ben salda al centro del proprio villaggio, quella sia proprio il New York Times. Loro ce l'hanno fatta. Se ce la farà il giornalismo è l'argomento di questa discussione con Steve Battri, Andy Carvin, Momi Peralta e Luke Lewis. Grazie. Allora, Andy, grazie per essere qui. So che per te è un momento non facile e vorrei io partire proprio da questo per iniziare la nostra discussione. Ieri mattina tu hai avuto, immagino dalla rete, è la fusione di bit e atomi, informazioni e oggetti, conoscere e avere, il tuo selfie e una caramella. E parla di questo sito qui, dove si può stampare una propria foto da Instagram sopra a una caramella, dimostrando che tra digitale e analogico, tra virtuale e reale, non c'è alcuna sostanziale differenza. Ho chiesto anche a qualcuno degli speaker di darmi una loro definizione di giornalismo digitale, un po' più seria. Questo è il tweet di Momi Peralta. Questo è quello di Steve Battery, del mio amico Steve. E qui ho voluto esserci anch'io per correttezza, ho provato a dare anch'io una mia definizione, che però ho cercato poi di diciamo, definire in maniera un po' più approfondita. Posto che notizie e redazioni si occupano di contenuti e di contesto, abbiamo la produzione e la cura, la ricerca e la raccolta di notizie esterna e quindi la necessità di verificare, da un lato la specializzazione, dall'altro l'aggregazione di contenuti anche dall'esterno, il lavoro di squadra e la distribuzione e infine un giornalismo che è guidato dai dati nel contenuto e guidato da un altro tipo di dati che sono gli analytics nella distribuzione e nel contesto. Sintetizzando, contenuto più contesto, professionisti più dilettanti, mainstream più social media, attraverso quelle che io ho definito piattaforme di condivisione, portano a fare giornalismo che è ben diverso dal...
If you don't mind, I will speak in Italian because I feel more comfortable and I think it's easier for me to talk and for you to understand. We have an excellent translation team, so they can do their work.
Allora, io mi alzo perché così poi posso far vedere una breve presentazione. Buonasera a tutti. Innanzitutto vorrei ringraziare il Festival Internazionale del Giornalismo e la campagna di crowdfunding che ha reso possibile questo evento, perché credo che un evento del genere, con questo tipo di speaker, tutti insieme allo stesso tavolo, gratuito, sia un evento eccezionale nel mondo e quindi credo che vada riconosciuto, vada sottolineato e vada dato il giusto merito a chi ha reso possibile tutto questo, probabilmente molti di noi anche contribuendo alla campagna di crowdfunding. Io farò una brevissima presentazione e poi lasceremo la parola ai nostri speaker con i quali sarà possibile interloquire. Io farò la prima domanda, poi loro faranno il loro intervento e alla fine credo che sia meglio che alla fine di ciascun intervento, se qualcuno ha qualche domanda da fare, la faccia. Potete anche eventualmente usare Twitter, che cercherò di controllare, magari con l'hashtag AllDigital, e così vedremo di fare le domande in corso d'opera. Abbiamo un'ora e mezzo di tempo e quindi non perdiamone altro. Allora, faccio un piccolo disclaimer sportivo. Io sono tifoso della Juventus e sono anche molto preoccupato per la partita di questa sera con il Benfica, però ho una certa ammirazione per quest'uomo che, come immagino molti di voi sappiano, si chiama Rudy Garcia.